Hello, my name is Edward Dove. I'm a lecturer in health law and regulation at the University of Edinburgh School of Law in the United Kingdom. And I'm one of the two workstream leads of the regulatory and ethics workstream for the Global Alliance in Genomics and Health. And in this brief introductory video, I'll introduce you to the REWS and some of the work that we've done and some of the work that we're currently doing. And my co-workstream lead, Professor Yanjo Lee, will also then follow in video. So I will briefly share some slides with you to show some of the work that we've been doing. First, as just a very brief overview of our work stream, we consider ourselves to be the steward of the human rights framework for the Global Alliance for Genomics and Health. And so our mantra is always to provide ready-to-use regulatory and ethics guidance for genomic and health-related data sharing. And so all of the work that we do is really grounded in this framework for responsible sharing of genomic and health-related data, which was first published in 2014 in the early years of the regulatory and ethics workstream, or work group as it was then known. And I'm pleased to say that over the years, we've developed many translations thanks to the hard work of colleagues around the world. And to date, we have 13 translations of the framework, other than the English in which it was drafted. And very shortly, we have a Finnish and Dutch translation coming as well. I'll highlight two kind of areas where we've done a lot of work in the last year. And one is a kind of trifecta of work called consent tools. And as part of that, we updated our consent policy in 2019, which as a kind of overarching policy framework seeks to enable the sharing of genomic and health-related data in a way that respects the autonomous decision-making of participants, but also promotes the common good of international data sharing in this space. This past year, we developed machine-readable consent guidance, which are instructions for researchers to integrate standard data sharing language into consent forms in a way that's also able to be translated into computable language. And so that's really been of good help to the community. And then most recently, we've drafted consent clauses for genomic research. And that provides researchers with sample phrases addressing various consent elements. And very recently, in the last couple of weeks, we've actually had a translation of these consent clauses in the Chinese, which is really a tremendous opportunity for us to have these consent clauses be used in contexts around the world that don't necessarily operate in English. Other policies, we developed or updated our data privacy and security policy in 2019. Which again is a kind of overarching policy framework that seeks to guide the sharing of genomic and health-related data in ways that protect and promote the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of data, but also upholds the privacy interests of individuals, families, and communities whose data are shared. In 2020, we also updated our ethics review recognition policy, so another kind of overarching policy document that really seeks to overcome this challenge of duplicative and potentially inconsistent reviews by ethics committees in the context of multi-site studies. So this is about promoting trust in another jurisdiction's ethics review system such that the decision taken in one jurisdiction can be considered mutually recognizable and equivalent to their own, such that there might be a way to go around the potential for multiple ethics committee reviews, again, in the context of genomic and health-related data sharing. I also want to highlight our Gdpr International Data Sharing Forum. So the GA for Gdpr Forum publishes monthly briefs as it's done since August 2018. So this is now more than 2 years old and a really successful initiative. And this is a group of people interested in data protection, in particular the European General Data Protection Regulation and its impact on various aspects of international health research and genomic and health-related data sharing. So if you're keen to follow the monthly briefs and they're very short, about 600 words maximum, that uncover topics in this area, please do reach out to us and we'll be happy to add you to the mailing list. And then I just want to very briefly highlight one of several work projects that we're currently undertaking. And this one is sometimes known as DACREWS. This is the Data Access Committee Review Standards work. And this is a policy proposal. And this is being led by me and also Bassel Rahimzadeh at Stanford and Jonathan Lawson at the Broad Institute. And this is about trying to develop procedural standards for data access committees, to really identify areas of best practice and identify those elements that we think can be considered best practice as a means to drive consistency and robustness in the reviews undertaken by data access committees when they're assessing requests for genomic and health related data. So we know data access committees are as important in our area as research ethics committees, but there's a lot less guidance out there to drive procedural standards for consistency and robustness in reviews. So this is work that we're currently undertaking, and we hope it will be of use to the GA4GH community. So that's it for me, and I will now turn it over to my colleague, Jan Joly. Thanks very much.
Hello, my name is Jan Joly. I'm the co-chair of the Regulatory and Ethics Work Stream of the Global Alliance for Genomics and Health, along with my colleague Ted Duff. And I will now be following up on this presentation by introducing the remaining tools, guidelines, information documents that are part of our roadmap. The first document is really a public and dynamic document called Responsible Data Sharing to Respond to the COVID-19 Pandemic, Ethical and Legal Considerations. What it does is it's the work of a collective group, and it aims to really describe both the opportunities and challenge for a researcher who wants to share data to do research on COVID-19 from a regulatory and ethics perspective, and taking into account various national contexts. It's a work in progress, and you're certainly welcome to share your insight on your own country and your own experience of data sharing in times of COVID with us, so that we can improve on the document and that it can help the research community better. And the last item is a paper that's been published by some of our colleagues called COVID-19 Research Navigating the European Gdpr. And the idea here is to provide a critical perspective on the application of GDPR to the COVID context, especially focusing on the public interest basis to justify data processing in this context. The next set of tools and information document is the consent suite developed by our former co-chair Barta Marianoppers and colleagues. The best place to start in this suite is the consent clauses for large-scale initiatives, which has just been completed and is available online, and it summarized a lot of the previous work on consent clauses. The idea there is to bring together all of the GA4GH consent work within 3 different paths: that of genomic research consent clause, that of national initiative and biobanking and population studies, and that of clinical consent clauses in the context of whole genome sequencing. And there will also be another research, a typology of familial clauses, which will also transcend all these categories that I've just mentioned. Of course, this work is there to provide model consent clauses to facilitate the development of consent form for the various type of research that we just mentioned. And I'll move on to the next area of interest, which is that of return of results. We know, of course, that return of results is a central question when you do human genomic research these days. So 2 initiatives, one by Robert Green and Anna Lewis, and the idea is to develop an aspirational policy there on return of genomic result in research study. The second item is also very interesting. It's basically a systematic review of stakeholder perspective on return of result in genomic research. The summary of the results already available. The next set of items include the participant-patient public engagement policy that is currently being developed by Madeleine Murtagh, Mavis Macchiori, Clara Gaff as well. The aim of the project is to collect and analyze existing engagement practices and policies within the GA4GH community and other relevant projects worldwide to identify gaps and potential for further innovation. This will enable us to develop a guide to engagement for genomics research which account for diversity and a GA4GH policy framework for good practices. We are also interested in the question of standard genomic data licenses and agreements. And the aim of this new forum will be to discuss international best practices for licensing data and other scientific resources. The initial focus will be on intellectual property consideration, copyright, database rights, in the context of publicly available biological and biomedical knowledge bases. So I hope this review of the REWS tools, policy, information documents that are part of our roadmap was of interest to you. And if it was, I invite you to join us and participate to the discussion of the REWS group, which are open to everyone. Thank you very much for your attention.